What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Okay, here we go again with some more media manipulations, folks. Check this out right quick. How Elon Musk's mission to cut government spending fell flat. They're trying to make you believe that what Doge done, like all of that exposure of all of the malfeasance, all of the waste, fraud, and abuse, cutting of all these federal employees, and trying to get us back to some semblance of fiscal responsibility, that none of it worked. None of it worked. And I love this article, by the way, because they go on to tell you everything that went on, but they just blatantly ignore reality, as a matter of fact. Let's get into this, because this one kind of grinded my gears a little bit. Check this out, y'all. Elon Musk's effort to dramatically cut government spending is expected to fall far short of his grand early pronouncements, and perhaps even his most modest goals. His most modest goals, huh? What were his most modest goals? Because I don't know what his most modest goals were. But anyway, it didn't have to be that way, did it? They are kind of right, but they are leaving out a lot of context from that. According to experts across the ideological spectrum, a major problem was a failure to deploy people who understood the inner workings of government to work alongside his team of software engineers and other high wattage technology talent. That's how you're going to place it, huh? No, it had nothing to do with the lawsuits. You mean every single move that Doge made, there was a lawsuit to stop it, to try to block it, to try to prevent them from doing their job. Oh, so they just failed because they didn't have the right people. It wasn't because of all the millions of dollars the Democratic apparatus and the corporate media put into trying to stop them. Had nothing to do with it. There is zero mention of any of what I just said in this news article. Spoiler alert, by the way. Zero mention of that. But that would be the main reason why they didn't get the job done. Because the constant gaslighting, the constant fear-mongering. Oh, they're accessing your data. But are they accessing your data? I've went over this several times. We talked about this the other day. But sure, they may have had access to the computer systems that have your data on it. But does that mean they're accessing your data? It's a manipulation tactic, folks. Once again, even that might not have achieved Musk's original target of $2 trillion, which is roughly the size of the entire federal deficit. Yes, it is, as a matter of fact. But once again, folks, we'll keep going. I don't want to keep interjecting here. Musk, whose last day spearheading the Department of Government Efficiency is Friday, slashed his goal for savings from $2 trillion to $1 trillion to finally only $150 billion. Was that his goal, though? See, what they're trying to do is they're trying to make you believe that $150 billion was his goal. No, that just happens to be where they're currently sitting. Yeah, they're not done, by the way. And once again, this is the corporate press, the media, trying to pretend that Doge is finished because Elon Musk is gone. But that's not the case. And once again, they do tell you this, by the way, but it's buried way, way, way down at the end of the news article, as a matter of fact. As is, standard operating procedure for the corporate press to give you the pertinent information that might change your opinion on a news story all the way at the end, expecting you not to read all the way through the news article. The current Doge results put Musk's efforts well short of President Bill Clinton's initiative to streamline the federal bureaucracy, which saved the equivalent of $240 billion by the time his second term ended. Now they're trying to compare this to Bill Clinton. But once again, folks, did we have the same effort from the entirety of the Democratic apparatus, or at the time, because Clinton was a Democrat, the Republican apparatus and the mainstream news attempting to stop this? Right? We didn't have any lawsuits, as far as I know, to try to stop this. Now, there were lawsuits for trying to stop the getting rid of, firing the employees, some of the bureaucracy. I do know there was lawsuits for that. But as far as cost-cutting measures, no. They didn't try to stop Bill Clinton, as a matter of fact. It's insane, it really is. Clinton's efforts reduced the federal workforce by more than 400,000 employees. According to government estimates, the total civilian federal workforce, not counting military personnel or postal workers, reaches 2.4 million people. Yeah, so the government employs well over 3 million folks. It also seems clear that Musk was unable to change the overall trajectory of federal spending despite eliminating thousands of jobs. The Yale Budget Lab, in an analysis of Treasury data, shows money is flowing out of the government coffers at an even faster pace than the previous 2 years. Now, I don't know where they're doing their analysis from, but you mean to tell me that pretty much shutting down USAID and that entire budget and all those grants that was flowing out of USAID. Okay, now we pretty much shuttered the Department of Education. Sorry, that took me a second to get out. I don't know why. So you mean to tell me with all of that gone, that money is still flowing faster out of the government than before that? You mean to tell me, I don't know if you guys remember, that right before Joe Biden was about to come out of office, there was a wave of corporate press outlets covering news that Joe Biden was trying to push money out the door as fast as possible. You guys remember that, don't you? Yeah, you remember that. Well, hang on just a second. All of that push, that money getting pushed right out the door, that happened in this fiscal year. So that's part of the analysis, as a matter of fact, because we haven't had a full fiscal year of Trump's presidency yet. So all of that pushing money out of the door is added on. And once again, the corporate press manipulating you into trying to think that Donald Trump is spending more money than Joe Biden was, when that is not the case. That is absolutely not the case. The media, you don't hate the media enough, folks. These people are scumbags and they hate you if you don't agree with them politically. If you don't have their ideologically bent beliefs, for crying out loud, they hate you. They absolutely hate you, and you do not dislike their manipulations enough. This is insane, folks. Once again, I will repeat this. That analysis includes that gigantic push from the Biden administration to get as much money out of the door as quickly as possible. Now they're trying to make you think that that is Trump's fault. Insane. It really is, folks. And this is the Associated Press. Now, I will say right off, for transparency, that headline was not the Associated Press. That was from Sky News, as a matter of fact, which was surprising. The Associated Press, their headline was a little bit different. I'm not going to say it was more fair or anything like that. It was just different. I just went with the Sky News because that was a statement of objective reality, if you will. And that's not really the case. Anyway, let's finish this news article up. We'll ram this through right quick, then we'll discuss some things. It was an impossible goal that they were trying to achieve. They kept lowering the standards of success, said Alex Norasti. I guess that's how you pronounce that. Vice President for Economic and Social Policy Studies for the Cato Institute, a libertarian think tank. A more knowledgeable Doge team wouldn't have made insane promises that would be impossible to keep. They set themselves up for failure. But did they? No, I can't stand this, by the way. At a White House event with Trump on Friday, Musk said his team would stay in place and renewed the goal of reaching at least $1 trillion in cost savings. This is not the end of Doge, but really the beginning. The Doge team will only grow stronger over time. It's permeating throughout the government, Musk said in the Oval Office, wearing a black blazer over a t-shirt emblazoned with the Doge Father. We do expect over time to achieve the $1 trillion. The early evidence suggests that goal will be exceedingly difficult to reach. I doubt it. Once all these lawsuits fall by the wayside, they're going to be good to go, folks. They're going to be going 90 miles an hour, for crying out loud. By relying chiefly on information technology experts, Musk ended up stumbling through Washington and sometimes cutting employees vital to President Donald Trump's own agenda. Oh, now they're trying to say if it was a self-inflicted wound. But was it? Immigration judges were targeted at the same time the administration was trying to accelerate deportations of people in the U.S. illegally. Now, that is a statement as if those two things are connected. They are not. Anybody that's been in the country within 2 years gets expeditiously removed. What does that mean? No due process through the courts at all. Their due process simply is being detained by ICE and then expeditiously deported. That is it. You do not need an immigration judge once again. Plus, they are going around getting people that already have final orders of deportation. Once again, that means they already got their due process and they no longer need the immigration courts. These people are scumbags. Once again, folks. Likewise, technologists with the Bureau of Land Management were purged from the Department of Interior despite their significance to clearing the way for petroleum exploration, a Trump administration priority. That is not true. Once again, folks, they are trying to cut regulations. That right there insinuates more regulations. But the Trump administration is attempting to release the shackles, the regulatory shackles, if you will. In many cases, fired employees were rehired, adding administrative costs to an effort aimed at cutting expenditures. And once again, what they're not mentioning is the lawsuits that forced the Trump administration to rehire those people. Liars, folks. Had Musk's team been staffed with experts on what positions are required under federal law to continue efforts such as drilling and immigration enforcement, it could have avoided similar mistakes across multiple departments, Norasti said. I just think there were a lot of unforced errors that a more knowledgeable DOJ team would have avoided, Norasti said. Grover Norquist, president and founder of the Conservative Americans for Tax Reform, had a more favorable perspective on Musk's work, saying it should be judged not only by the total dollars saved, but his ability to spotlight the issues. When you find the problem, you don't know how far the cancer has spread. You just found a cancer cell, he said. Yeah. Norquist said it's up to Congress to take the baton and set up a permanent structure to continue where Musk is leaving off. I just think it's going to be seen 5 to 10 years from now as something very big and very permanent, Norquist said. And that was done only because of a guy like Musk who came in and shake things up. Sorry, y'all. Clear misprint. Elaine Kamarck, a key figure in Clinton's government efficiency push, said their efforts were guided more by a more modest fiscal target than DOJ. The initiative was led by Vice President Al Gore, and it was aimed at making the government more responsive to people who used it, and focused heavily on updating antiquated hiring and purchasing procedures. It took years and carried into Clinton's second term. We went about it methodically, department by department, and, yes, used some outside analysts, but they were seasoned government civil servants who knew about government in general, Kamarck said. Clinton's efforts saved $136 billion by the end of Clinton's second term, the equivalent of more than $240 billion today, and contributed to budget surpluses for each of the final 4 fiscal years he was in office. So what does that tell you right there, folks? What Elon Musk has done in, 3 months? Took the Clinton administration. All right, let's say Elon Musk has done half of what took the Clinton administration 8 years to do, but they did it in 3 months. Is that a failure, folks? Once again, you do not hate the corporate press enough. Kamarck said she expects what she called Musk's chaotic approach will reveal mistakes or oversights that could create crises down the road, such as a transportation problem, response to a natural disaster, or delivery of entitlement benefits. These are the things that really hurt presidents, and they are increasing the probability that something is going to happen, Kramark said. Associated Press, blah, blah, blah. Who cares about that? Once again, folks. Now, the headline on this article does not align with reality, as we can see. The statements in this article and the blatant manipulations in here of omitting reality, omitting the truth, omitting nuance, makes this a very different article, doesn't it? Makes it a very different article. With all that knowledge, wouldn't you say that so far, Doge has been a massive success, despite the roadblocks, despite the entirety of the Democratic apparatus, which includes the corporate press, attempting to roadblock all of their efforts? They've already cut $150 billion and fired thousands of employees, despite all of those roadblocks that the Clinton administration absolutely did not encounter. Once again, though, the corporate press is going to lie to you and say, oh, it's an utter failure because they didn't reach their goals. $2 trillion. Once again, folks, do they really think that you set a goal and you must attain that goal for whatever effort to be considered successful? Or, once again, in reality, is it more the case that you set a really high goal, you set a really high bar, you try to attain that goal, but if you don't, do you consider that a failure, or do you consider that a success because of what you actually accomplished instead of what you didn't accomplish that probably couldn't get accomplished anyway? $2 trillion? Although I think they could have. However, I don't think that's actually going to happen. $2 trillion. That's a lot. Once again, like the article said, and I've said 1,000 times, the deficit is $1.8 trillion. So, yeah, I don't think that the entirety of the federal government is funded in a deficit. I don't think they can just cut the entirety of the federal government, for crying out loud. I think they're going to get way more by the end of Trump's first term. So in half the time it took Bill Clinton, I think they're going to at least quadruple what they've got now. At least. That's my prediction. I want y'all to hold my feet to the fire on that. Yeah, I think at least $600 billion. I think they'll at least quadruple that. Yeah, I think so. But, who's to say? Y'all let me know down in the comments. That's all I got on this one. Hey, y'all don't forget, please do me a big favor. Smash that like button for me. Subscribe if you're new around here and want to stay up to date with corporate press manipulations, for crying out loud. And if y'all could, share this video anywhere and everywhere you can. And please, for me, look right below the video. Click that join button. Sign up. Become a member. Help me deliver the news to you guys so I can give you the best possible content that I can give you. And if you don't mind, y'all try to have a good day and stay legitical. Peace.